rained 5 days and the sky turned dark at night. When it rained 5 days and the sky turned dark.
Well, you'll be seeing this on probably Wednesday morning, but it's actually a nice Monday morning, and I say this almost every time, but I'm with two really great characters from the Gilford Community Church.
Characters,
And,
I like that.
almost every Sunday when Jim leaves, he'll say something, make some obscure reference that I have to hope I remember, so when I get back to my office I can put it in the Google machine to figure out what in the world he's talking about. So how have you guys been?
Healthy.
I know early on, Ann, you lost your mom.
Yeah, my mom passed away on Palm Sunday. And
so, maybe in March, or the
yeah,
beginning of
April.
Yeah.
April 5th. There were 15 deaths in the state of Massachusetts from COVID on that day, and my mom was one of them.
Oh.
So I had all of the fun, weird stuff of going through some of the mourning, which I'd already been through. My mom had had a stroke the previous February, not February of 2020, February of 2019. And she was in nursing care. And then this winter, she had 3 surgeries, all involving various things with her gallbladder, which they finally removed in February. And she went back to the nursing home, and they had, on April 1st, they had a diagnosis of a single patient with the virus. And next day, the National Guard was in there testing everybody, including all of the staff. Anyone who had had any contact there at all. Of course, they were already shut down at that point. So they went in on Wednesday and tested everybody. On Sunday morning, my sister got a call from the doctor saying they wanted to bring her to the ER, and brought her to the ER. And the next call my sister received was from the ER doctor, who told her that she really thought my mother probably had the virus. There were no test results available yet. She had a temperature of 103, and her pulse ox was like, at that point, probably 60. And, she just wasn't there. And they asked my sister if we wanted to change the DNR, which, we didn't want to, and my mother wouldn't have wanted us to either. And then from there, it was just, all of the final putting everything in place that we had planned anyway. But none of us got to see her. The doctor said that he would keep a nurse with her. She said, it was a woman. The doctor said she'd keep a nurse with my mom for the rest of the afternoon, and that they'd keep her comfortable, which is just what they did. And at about 10 of 3 or so, we got a call saying that she had passed, and the doctor just happened to be there when she did. So it was the doctor and the nurse and my mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tough way to die, huh?
Well, yeah, plus, there were all of the things prior to it where we couldn't see her. Yeah. We had set things up like this with, Skype type calls or visits through the glass at the nursing home, but that was it. And I was really wary of going into Massachusetts myself because of what I do for work. I didn't want to have to quarantine in place for 14 days if I happened, when I came back home to, because I couldn't go to work. So it was all very bizarre. We did have her internment already. We went ahead and did that, but her thing was to have a memorial mass followed by one hell of a big party.
Now, I didn't know your mom, obviously, but I did know your mom, Jim, Martha Colburn.
Yes.
What a classy What a classy lady.
She was.
And as I recall, she died during the construction.
Yeah.
So didn't we have her service at the Methodist Church?
Yes.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a she cardinal outside through the whole service, and the cardinal was sort of her bird.
Ah. So that would have been about 10 years ago, maybe 11?
Yeah.
13.
13.
Was it that long?
Wow. Oh. And I know you recently retired.
Yep.
How's life on the other
I'm
side?
still trying to figure when to be awake and asleep, because I work second shift all the time.
Yep.
Sometimes I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning because I haven't gone to bed yet.
How many years did you work that shift?
Oh,
All
better
his
part of
life.
20.
Okay. I worked the night shift at UPS for about 5 years, and my bedtime nowadays, well, Cindy wakes me up about 8 o'clock and says you should probably go upstairs if you're going to sleep.
Uh-huh.
But then I usually get here about 4:15, 4:30.
Yeah.
So if you're up at that time, come on over, we have a conversation, maybe go for a little workout.
Wouldn't be a bad idea.
So I don't think I know anyone who would be a better Jeopardy contestant than Jim Colburn. Maybe Ann, but do you watch Jeopardy?
Is the Pope Catholic? Do bears do it in the woods?
I'm watching it as often as I can now. I got another one of those Jeopardy final questions before, when they just give the category, I come up with a spontaneous answer, and I got another one.
Huh, what was the answer?
20th century metaphors. The Iron Curtain. What is the Iron Curtain? And it turned out that's what it was.
Wow. And I think you've done the same thing, Ann.
I've done it once. It's usually Jim that does it.
Well, Cindy's done it once too.
Yeah, your wife.
Yeah. Well, every once in a while, if the category is, narrow enough
Yeah.
that you have some sort of a clue. But how often during a question do you not know the answer?
Oh, quite often.
Oh, really?
You mean during a
Regular
Final
show.
Jeopardy or
No, during
a
a regular show.
It depends the category.
Yeah.
He can run a category like that
Yep.
sometimes. And then other times,
What would be a category you wouldn't want to see if you were on Jeopardy?
Anything about Britney Spears or those people, or
So some pop culture stuff.
Yeah.
recent pop culture.
Yeah.
recent pop
Yeah.
culture.
Like
He's not big on rap.
21st century. Yeah. So what does a good day in your life look like, Jim?
I haven't figured that out yet. It's just kind of really holding out till this thing is over, so I can figure out what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah.
I have been working down at St. Vincent de Paul.
What do you do there?
Receive stuff in, sort it, price it, resurrect what I can of it, especially the electronics. A beat-up turntable will come in, and I can get that thing up, and we can get $40 out of it.
Huh. So people still buy turntables. I mean, I have seen vinyl records
Oh, yeah.
make a comeback, I guess. How many records do you have?
Thousands. How many, I don't know. I'm getting rid of a lot of them because
How organized is your collection?
some of it is very, some of it is not at all. People started giving me whole collections, and it takes a long time to assimilate those. What I have upstairs was in a given order, known only by me.
Well, I could figure things out.
Well,
That was what we played from.
yeah.
So, and you're still working.
Oh, yeah.
And so where are you working?
I work for Jeff Whitaker, the chiropractor on North Main
My back is a
Street.
little sore. Do you?
He
I moved
does.
3,000 pounds of rocks this morning.
May all your children be born naked and bald. Good God.
Without a tooth in their head?
Right.
So-
Why would you move 3,000?
Well, I went over to Gilford Block. We're building a little rock wall in our backyard. And the truck I borrowed could only handle about 1,500 pounds, so you couldn't put the whole crate on. So we had to manually put them on the truck, and then I got home and unloaded them, and then I went back and did the same thing.
Any good fossils in it?
I don't know if there are any fossils, but yeah, I'd like to have so
That's on the bucket list.
what would Gilford have looked like 100,000 years ago?
100,000 years ago, well, that would have been mid-Cretaceous. Yeah, across the lake, you'd see a big volcano where Ossipee is.
How big would Lake Winnipesaukee have been?
It wouldn't exist.
It wouldn't.
No, that was formed during the Ice Age, pretty much.
Okay.
Stuff coming in probably over the White Mountains and the Ossipee Range and so forth. The glacier would carry all the rocks off of them and dig out material and bring it over here. There's a lot of rock around here that have big rectangular crystals in it of feldspar. That's the Meredith porphyritic granite, called MPG for short. And you find a lot of that around in Gilford. You see these big rocks with those rectangles in it. That all came from Meredith. That's not the ground we have here.
Huh. Now, so when we lived in Gunstock Acres, you couldn't put a shovel in the ground and not hit a rock.
Yeah.
Where we live off of Alva Wilson in the forest, it's very, very sandy.
Yep. Well, the Winnipesaukee was much deeper and larger then. So
is there a chance my backyard might have been part of Winnipesaukee?
probably been part of the lake here. The sand deposits would be like coming in from the glacial melt or from rivers and streams. The whole Village Knolls area is all sand pit.
Yep. Yeah. Milo
Bacon.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should remember Milo. Milo was a member of the church.
Yep, he was a character.
Yeah.
Yeah, he made concrete over there.
Yes.
As kids, we used to go over and crawl through all the concrete tubes he had there, all the culverts.
So would Winnisquam and Winnipesaukee been one lake?
Probably.
Probably, yeah.
And the whole of the Connecticut River Valley was Lake Hitchcock.
I'm thinking about this in terms of my sermon, a direction I might want to go on Sunday, so I'm glad we're having this conversation.
Well, I have a number of books on the subject.
Which you'll digest in 20 minutes each.
You just give me like a one-page summary of the highlights. How about the Cliffs version?
Well, I don't know all that much about this area. More you get out in the Great
Where
Lakes.
did you grow up? Did you
New
grow up?
Boston.
Okay.
Until like 1961, then we moved up here.
Okay. And how did you and Ann meet?
Keene State College.
What were you studying, Ann?
I was an English major with a journalism emphasis. I started out as a children's theater major and converted.
And how about you, Jim?
Well, I had dropped out of school by then.
Okay.
I was in earth science
You got what you wanted, huh?
Well, I saw too many graduates working as busboys. I had worked up at Hart's for several years, and I took a job in the kitchen there. I started working to get a little extra money while I was in school, and I ended up working like 75 hours a week, and I made the dean's list while doing that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Then I just started working full-time there to reduce my hours. And she was working in the dish room there. She was singing, I think, some Joni Mitchell or Laura Nero. And
Joni.
I asked her if she'd heard Bessie Smith. So she came over to my place with all the other guys that we were living with. There were about 5 of us there over on Cross Street, and listened to some of my music, and been together pretty much ever since.
So what year did you meet and what year did you get married?
Would have been 72, 74 we got married.
Okay. Where did you get
'cause
married?
we met in the spring.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. We got married in Keene at United Church of Christ.
And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Nashua.
Okay.
Oldest of 5 kids.
Ditto.
He's the oldest of 5 also. Went to private convent Catholic school, which happened to be the novitiate for Presentation Sisters, for 8 glorious years, and then had the shock of my life and went to Nashua High, where there were 576 graduates in my class of 71.
And what year did you two move to Gilford then?
That was, 77?
78.
78, yeah. Well, I'd been paying towards my parents' house anyway. They had a cottage on Winnisquam, and the idea was once the kids were through school, they'd move over there. That's how we got here.
So that's what happened. It was a package deal. Marry me. Oh, by the way, we're going to be living in Gilford. It's like, you're kidding. This after my first introduction to the location and to the family was Jim's mom cooking me their game dinner.
Ray had shot a raccoon.
Oh, raccoon. How
Yes.
is raccoon?
It's nothing I would care to experience again, thank you. However, she redeemed herself. She made the best. She canned baby beets with the greens, and I had never had the greens, and I liked beets. So when I had the greens, it was like, oh my God, somebody put spinach with my beets. This is wonderful.
That's too good. That sounds like a good meal to me.
It was. That was the meal for me, basically. You know, the raccoon kind of got moved around my plate. Oh.
And I know your church background is a little checkered.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
How did you end up at the Gilford Community Church?
You want our church journey?
Yeah, your little faith journey.
Okay, well, you went through all of the Catholicism
Yep.
bit with me. Some weird things happened along the way. Just before I turned 16, my mom left our home and got a place of her own, and my parents filed for divorce about 2 years after that. My father and mom divorced, and then my dad remarried just after Jim and I did. So, 5 kids and 18 years later, and then remarried at that point already. He ended up getting an annulment from the Catholic Church.
Huh.
Yeah.
Bunch of bastards.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'll tell you.
yeah, exactly. And so he and Harriet, my stepmother, could be, or not really my stepmother, but my father's second wife. So the two of them could be married in the church. At that point, Jim and I were already married. We'd been married in Keene for a number of years. And just about the time that was going on with the annulment and all of that, we had a knock on our door from a couple Mormon missionaries. Jim had aunt and uncle and other family members that were LDS, and I had these 2 kids that had climbed up 3 flights of stairs. Our apartment in Keene was it was the 3rd floor of a storefront building, a double storefront. There were 2 stores downstairs and a huge stairway that went upstairs, and we were on the 3rd floor. The back end of our apartment was a greenhouse type glassed in loft area, and the rest of it was just huge. We could ride our bicycles through
You
there.
could play hockey.
They did,
You could create games like pigeon hockey.
which we don't want to talk about. That's a whole nother story. But in any case, the Mormon missionaries came to visit, and it was hot mid-July, and they climbed 3 flights of stairs to knock on our door. So I had to offer them some lemonade, and Lord forbid you never invite teenage boys in and offer them food, or in this case 20-year-old boys in and offer them food, because you never lose them. It's like kitties. And anyway, so we started doing teachings and all of that with the church, and we joined church summer of '76.
Something like that, yeah.
So we were LDS when we moved to Gilford.
Okay.
And we were friends with Ray and Georgie because they were our neighbors.
Yep.
And Jim's mom was a member of the church here, and Jim had, done Sunday school and other stuff here as a kid. In fact, Judy found that picture.
Yeah.
Judy Buswell found a picture when she
Oh, I
was
saw that
doing
picture.
the history bit.
Yeah, great picture.
Yeah, and Jim knew, we could, between the 2 of us, we labeled who all the kids were and they had missed one. The caption was incorrect. Anyway, but because we knew who all the kids were from other family pictures, Jim's mom kind of had all of his cousins and now it's all the nieces and nephews, but then it was all cousins that, were staying at Mops. Jim's mom was a school teacher, so the kids all stayed their summers. But in any case, we bought the house, and Ray and Georgie were there, and we were LDS at the time, and so was Judy Buswell, for that
Yes.
matter. And, so that's how we knew Judy, from the church, not from her living up the street. Or did you know her from
Sort
those
of.
days? Okay, so anyway, so that's basically, yeah, because when she was living up the street, she was already married, wasn't she?
I think so.
Yeah, she and Winthrop were
Yeah,
married
they were
at that
enough
point.
older.
Yeah, but then we met them then too, and the whole family, and the Stevensons. I'm trying to think who else was Gilford at the time. Lots of LDS people. Well, the Giles. Yeah, and then the Gibbses, Marcia and her husband were here.
Yeah.
And they were living down in the house that's Troy Schrupp's house now, and Eliza Jerry's place, that house. It didn't have the whole back area with the office and all of that.
Do you know
They
the
did all that.
comedian Julia Sweeney, I think is her name?
I know the name.
She has a real funny bit on some Mormons who come and visit her.
Uh-huh,
You might want to check it out.
okay.
So what brought you here?
The house.
Well, I mean to the church.
Well,
Oh,
well, we largely fell away from the Mormon church, and we're
Yeah.
living with no religion.
Mop was still really
Yeah,
active
once in a
here.
great while, I'd be in here with Mop for one reason or another, but not normally. I did some cooking at the time here. I remember doing some prime rib once, or steamship of beef.
Doing stuff for Ray. You taught him how to cook steamship.
Yeah.
Jim and Anne are both really good cooks. Done a lot of catering.
And one day I saw something on Discover, and it was about stick insects. And I said, geez, I haven't seen a walking stick for a long time. Next day I walked outside, there's a walking stick. Prior to that, I'd found a little Walter 45 at a yard sale. Like, little Walter you're going to find up in here? He's a blues harmonica player from the early 60s, late 50s. It was with Muddy Waters Band. I got to think, well, maybe I ought to do some praise of God. I felt the urge to praise God in a sort of ritualized, formalistic way. So I surprised my mother and I came to church. And pretty much been coming ever since.
So about what year would that have been?
Let's see.
When did you and Cindy come?
We
That
came
was
in 2002.
2002, okay.
This was before, probably 94, 95, in
Okay.
there, somewhere in there.
I want to say it was,
James was here.
Okay, James Wolin was here in, he followed Ray Whitson. Ray died in 96.
Yeah.
and
So it was probably 97.
No, it was right after that.
Yeah,
yeah.
good. Well, I'm glad you found your way back.
It was a long, strange trip.
So what's on the schedule for today?
We were just talking about that on the way over. I have a little bit of shopping to do. I'm on vacation this week. Have a little bit of shopping to do, so I'm going to go do that. And after that, we're open. We haven't finished, other than I am bringing Dick Peterson lunch.
Well, I don't like that.
But other than that, I don't have any big plans.
Last question, how many cats live in your barn?
Actually, living in the barn rather than the house,
Or the whole Colburn estate?
I feed 4 cats.
Okay.
We have 4. That's enough.
There has been a black one living in the barn as well for several years, but she's moved over to the Perrys.
They adopted her. We are so very grateful because, or at least I am so very grateful, because before you would know it, he would be feeding her, taking pity on her, and then she'd be in the house. And then if she's in the house, she's at the vet's. And if she's at the vet's, we're poor.
Well, you probably don't have a mouse problem.
We
do
have a partial mouse problem.
We have a chipmunk problem,
Yeah.
A half a chipmunk problem.
and I've been known to rescue birds.
Yes, thrilling one.
I had, about 2 weeks ago, I had a downy woodpecker, a female downy woodpecker, that one of the cats had got that I rescued.
Frodo.
And brought her outside, and, you know,
The woodpecker,
she
not the
pecked
cat.
pecked me a few times, and then just gave in. And I knew they had a long curved tongue with a point at the end of it, but I'd never actually seen it up close. But I put her up in a tree, and she was gone the next time I was out there, so I am hoping that she was all right.
Huh. So you resurrected her like you do those turntables.
Yeah, sort of. Got a wren one year.
Yeah, the
That was
kitties,
a
the
tiny
kitties are
thing.
notorious. As long as I'm not stepping in mouse entrails when I get out of bed in the morning, I'm happy.
Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a good day, and I look forward to seeing you back in the, well, I don't know when the choir will be able to resume. But,
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah. But it's nice to see you. Have a great day.
You
A good
too.
one, too.
I shall.
Then trouble taking place in the lowlands at night. I woke up this morning, can't even get out of my door. I woke up this morning, can't even get out of my door. There's enough trouble to make a poor girl wonder where she wanna go.